Warning, this podcast will probably feature spoilers for many, many episodes of Doctor Who. TARDIS podcast, the podcast where we take a look at every single episode of the 2005 revival of BBC's Doctor Who. I'm Geoff.
I'm Skylar.
I'm Avery.
And today we are discussing Series 1, Episode 11, Boomtown by Russell T. Davies, our boy, the legend.
The based king.
The based king. So this is another visit to Cardiff in the modern day, where they run into our pal Margaret Blaine from the Slitheen episode, up to no good, and shenanigans ensue.
Indeed.
So I like how this just like normal ass episode has a fucking recap on it. Like it's one of those things where it's like thematically connected, like it's story connected to Aliens of London, but I also think it's like thematically connected to like some of what the season finale will start to get into a little bit. But other than that, you know, we open on this inspector guy telling Margaret Blaine that this power plant or whatever, the design isn't safe and could result in the death of millions, and is asking her to stop it, which of course is our cold open. So spoiler alert, he fucking dies. Rest in peace.
Yeah.
What a gamer.
Too much gaming. What I noticed right from the bat, and it's more obvious way down the line, is that to me the look of the Slitheen looks marginally better. Not when she's coming out of the skin suit, that still looks cheesy and appropriately creepy, but like, I don't know, maybe it's just because there's one instead of like three going around at once or whatever, but it looks marginally better.
Yeah, that's fair. So after the credits, I think I forgot about this episode. The first like POV character you see in this episode isn't like the Doctor or Rose or Jack. No, it's fucking Mickey, my boy.
Ricky Smith.
Ricky,
who answers the door and immediately gets like stood off by Jack, who is wearing a extremely skin tight shirt for this entire episode,
and an extremely unflattering pants, I think, fanny pack and like jacket.
Yeah, no, it's really funny.
I'm just like, this is the most unattractive thing you can put him in, but also it's John Barrowman, so it barely does anything to him.
Yeah, it's like a minus 0.5 to charisma.
Retweet.
And so, yet another episode where it's like, dear God, Jack, how did they get away with this in 2005?
The Doctor openly flirting back, too. It's just like, I'm worth it.
Yeah. Like, not gonna lie, I
ship it.
Actually, that's something I'd say, which is, like, I'm more familiar with, like, 10 and Jack because I've seen, like, Season 3 and, like, Journey's End and that stuff, like, more times. But I feel like he makes a little bit more sense with 9. Like, they have a better dynamic, a more interesting dynamic. Also, it's just a better, more interesting ship.
Totally.
It really is just like their playfulness plays off of each other. It's really
Yeah,
good.
yeah.
Yeah. And then what happens next, which I love, is that like Rose and obviously Jack would, but like Rose is kind of participating in the exposition slash
Yeah.
technobabble too, which I kind
Yeah.
of miss from like later on, where the companions, no matter how long they've been, they might be like slightly more savvy to like, oh yeah, we're used to this, but they can never like
Well, yeah,
have
'cause they
that
don't
type
have-
of connection, except for maybe
'Cause they-
Nardole, but that's a cheat.
and Clara to some extent, but that's mainly because they don't have someone who's like a Mickey to like play off of.
Yeah, fair enough. I don't know. I miss it. Shut up.
So nerd.
We get it. You
Also-
love Donna.
Also, I love how we get the first like, does nobody notice the TARDIS joke? Like, that's the first. I realized that that's actually like the first time in the entire like new series like anyone like questions it.
Yeah, Rose asks what a police telephone box is, but then she's just like, oh, okay. But it's a nice longer explanation.
Yeah. Then they say that they have to. So they're the reason why they're in Cardiff is because they're letting the TARDIS refuel because the rift's still there, and that means that they're there for 24 hours. So they all head off in search of just hanging out, eating some food. And it cuts to Margaret Blaine having like a little like PR moment about this nuclear power station that she's planning, but she gets cornered by this reporter, and my god, the black comedy in this scene.
Wait, before that though, can I finish talking about the last scene, because there's some funny
Yeah.
moments.
Oh yeah,
Uh,
okay.
I really like the moment where they're talking about like, won't somebody notice the police box, and the doctor's like, oh no, whatever, and then Mickey's like, that old lady's staring, and Jack is like probably wondering what 4 people could do inside a small wooden box.
Yeah.
And Mickey just straight up goes, what are you, captain of the innuendo squad?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, and then Jack does that weird W sign, and I still to this date have no idea what that means.
Yeah, I don't either.
Maybe it's a
think that-
51st century flip off.
I know. I
that's
think
my
it's.
headcanon.
I think it's like a British thing. I'd ask my dad, but I don't wanna. No, it's. But yeah, it's just similarly like, wow, they really were able to get away with a lot more than they've like even like remotely tried to recently.
Yeah. I mean, this is also just a convenient plot device that like never gets used again, pretty much.
Yeah.
Wait, then the reporter,
Yeah,
who
there's just
conveniently is about
the-
to be married and is with child.
Well, okay, we'll get to that. So, convenient. So the scene where she's talking with the reporter, and the reporter's just bringing up all these deaths, and she's like, "Well, it's like it's got the black comedy, and it is so funny."
I love that so
She's
much.
like. Yeah, she's like, the entire team of European safety inspectors, and she's like, they were all French. It's not my fault if danger explosives was only written in Welsh. Like, accent with the Cardiff Heritage community. The electrocution of that swimming pool was put down to natural wear and tear. And the architect, it was raining. Visibility was low. My car simply couldn't stop. And then the guy, she mentions the guy who gets killed in the cold open, and she's like, slipped on an icy patch, and she's like, he was decapitated, and he was like, it's a very icy patch.
I love that so much.
Anyways, so she decides that this reporter knows too much and is obviously trying to get her off into a secluded room so she can off her. And then they have this conversation where the reporter mentions that she's married and has a child, and that makes her not want to do it. And
Oh dear.
so yeah, Margaret Blaine isn't able to kill this one person because she mentions that she has a family and kids, and that reminds Margaret about the fact that she doesn't have a family anymore, I guess. Okay, there's a lot of good like motivation stuff and like wondering like, is this character good, is this character bad, I think that's done better later on. The scene's fine, it sets stuff up.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I
Also,
will say, yeah.
And then we cut back telling a raunchy story.
Woo.
Yeah. I want that story in Big Finish.
I'll probably get to it one day when they like run out of other shit to do.
Yeah. No, I was just gonna say that in the previous scene we're talking about with the where she's deciding not to kill her and she's like in her Slitheen form, that moment specifically, I was just like, wow, like the suit is holding up, like the emotion is coming through.
Yeah. The fact
which
that
was
this
like really
fucking,
important.
the fact that the suit can like emote is like pretty great. Like they managed to get like that level of emotion out of the suit.
Yeah, that was pretty cool.
And then the doctor steals an old man's newspaper.
And that's how they find out that Margaret Blaine's still around. And then it cuts to them in the foyer of the city hall, and Jack does this whole like mission briefing thing and goes through this whole like tactical plan, and the doctor's like, "Excuse me, who's in charge?" And Jack's like, "Oh yeah, right, sorry." And the doctor's like, "Yeah, what he said."
Excuse me, he goes, "Sorry, awaiting orders, sir." A little bit ooh. The woo.
And then Jack says, "Present arms," and they all pull out like 2005 ass mobile phones.
Yeah, that's a
also
good...
Yeah, no, the funny thing is like this episode has like two sides. There's like the serious character piece, which is really good, and then there's the like deadpan comedy part, which is also really good.
Oh, and just the next scene when he goes to talk to her is just flawless. I love it so much.
That aide is really working for his paycheck, trying to wrestle the doctor away from the mayor that just crawled out the window.
Yeah. All three of them running through the building, and like Jack jumps over this trolley and Mickey fucking like trips over it and eats shit.
Yeah. We don't get Awesome Mickey until later.
Yeah.
This is all part of his character development.
Yeah, we don't get cool Mickey until around the same time that Rose becomes extremely uncool.
It's like the inverse property of...
Yeah.
I don't know, something. But yes.
Yeah. And then she teleports out and she's like, haha, and then the doctor just kind of gives this like really bitch face and just pulls out his fucking Sonic. And they repeat this joke like 3 times.
Oh, but Rose says at first, "Oh, the doctor's very good at teleports," so it's sort of like the she's been traveling with him for a while now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he says he is in the End of the World with Cassandra.
Yeah, exactly.
I didn't originally realize that was a callback, but then I thought about it and I was just like, oh yeah, they did kind of showcase that once.
Yeah. Also, the great
really...
line. No, go ahead.
I was just gonna say it's really cool to see that there are species that the doctor just like can easily bulldoze over and take care of, which like kind of ties into the family of blood about how he didn't have to run away. He just was like not wanting to do what he ended up doing. But it's interesting seeing this doctor is much more like down to business. So he's just like, nope, not screwing around.
No. Yeah, that's 9 in general. Also, the great line where Margaret's like, this is persecution. Why can't you leave me alone? What did I ever do to you? And Nine's like, you tried to kill me and destroy this entire planet.
Yeah, it's a great moment. Just everyone, even the minor characters, even the villain especially, she can really hold the comedic and the deadly serious, which is important for a character like this.
Yeah. And so they discuss the nuclear reactor, and they figure out that the nuclear reactor is built on the rift and will go critical, and when it goes critical, she can use this thing called a tribophysical waveform macrokinetic extrapolator to get the hell out of Dodge by essentially surfing on this planet-wide explosion.
I'm trying to
multi-dimensional surfboard.
Parse out that techno babble to see if it actually means anything. It doesn't.
Probably not.
It's just like, it basically just wait. Let me see if tribo means anything. Let's see.
I doubt it. I'm glad they just call it the extrapolator later.
Oh, it literally doesn't even exist as a prefix. So it's just a nonsense prefix, then a physical waveform macrokinetic extrapolator. That's just a really fancy way of saying a surfboard.
Hey,
Yeah.
morphology evolves a lot in language. Okay, we can move on.
That's really. I think the fact that it's just a fancy way of saying surfboard is really funny and fitting. So.
Oh, totally.
I mean, yeah, waveform, so it's just like it captures waves, macrokinetic, big waves, extrapolator, it uses them.
Yeah.
It uses really big waves.
And then this is the first, well, not first, but like the first direct acknowledgement of the bad wolf thing that's been sprinkled
Yeah.
In and around the series in Welsh, which is a nice touch. But I love how it's treated all seriously, and then obviously the Doctor, who's probably right most of the time, is just like, oh, you travel a lot, you pick up certain things, not important.
Yeah. Yeah.
So then they bring her back to the TARDIS.
Yeah. Then they
Can I comment on one of her lines in this scene? Where they ask, like, isn't somebody supposed to be regulating this? And she's like, this is Cardiff, we're in South Wales, nobody in London cares. The entire coastline could fall into the ocean and no one in London would care. And she's like, oh no, I sound like a Welshman.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's the whole, like...
I do love those jokes.
Yeah. Yeah, no, the Cardiff jokes are really funny, considering that production was based in Cardiff. So it's really just poking fun at themselves.
Yeah, no, it's good stuff. It's good stuff.
Also, real quick before we move on, the subtitles on my official Region 1 USA DVD copy of the complete Series 1 fucking spell Raxacorical Fallopatorius wrong, and it pisses me off.
Oh no.
Someone didn't do their job.
Yeah.
Typical.
Someone wasn't looking at the script. Anyway.
It's in this scene as well that she also, like, they're like, yay, we caught you, and then she mentions that their planet or their culture, whatever, has the death penalty, and everything just stops.
Yeah, and this is such a 9 thing too, where like maybe 10, but definitely not 11, and especially not 12 or 13. Where she's like, they have the death penalty, and Nine's just like, I don't fucking care.
I'd argue early 12 might not care.
No,
but
12 was anti-authoritarian enough that he wouldn't care.
Fair enough. That's a rabbit hole we don't need to go down. But yeah, especially 9, having come from an area of like extreme justice and warfare and punishment, would be like, yeah, that's fine. You did it to yourself.
Yeah. No, it's really one of the things of like watching this scene, man. I'm really bummed that we didn't get any more 9.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping in the future that we might get some. Did you guys see that at like this big like fan convention he was actually there and did like a read of like the Father's Day script with Paul Cornell.
Oh yeah, Gallifrey 1.
Yeah.
I believe.
So I'm hoping that maybe, maybe we see him again in the 60th anniversary, or maybe he gets his own line on Big Finish similar to like Paul McGann's line. That would be nice.
It would.
I just want to hear more stories from him, man. Anyways, so they essentially arrest Margaret Blaine and take her back to the TARDIS.
And this is a really good scene.
Yeah. Also, I like the comment that before we get into like the serious stuff, I like the comment that Rose is like, "Hey, shit, we got a prisoner. It's really a police box now, guys."
It's like, not now, Rose. Now's not the time.
I do like how she talks up the Doctor's tech.
Yeah.
That's a good touch. It's sort of like, even in space, there's different levels of tech.
Oh no, like even for spacefarers, Time Lord technology is like this own fucking like eldritch thing. Like in Big Finish, like they have the ability to like erase someone from ever existing. Like
oh yeah, that's I remember reading about that.
It's like their own. They're on like their own level. Partly because Rassilon engineered them to literally always have supremacy to the point that he erased other species from existence just because they might evolve to be better than the Time Lords. So yeah.
I also like
that's something.
Some things to get set up in this scene. So first, she calls it the technology of the gods. And he says, "Don't worship me. I'd make a very bad god," which comes up later.
Yeah.
Also, the play where Rose has that comment, "We've got a prisoner. The police box is really a police box," and she goes, "You're not just the police. You're executioners."
Yeah.
Which nowadays that just is the police. So I don't know what she's talking about.
Rip. We just lost all our followers. No, I'm just kidding.
No, we don't, because most of our
right.
followers are Avery's friends.
Fair enough. Yeah, it's really great because it's, especially for 2006 is when this would air. It's really critical at that type of punitive justice, and the fact that Mickey is so quick to be like,
sort
she deserves it. And then there's that whole like long drawn out moment of like, who can look me in the eye, and I kind of wish the Doctor had, but
yeah,
I don't know. There's debates about that.
I think that's also part of a thing of like character development, where like I think if like he was like early on, like if this was like episode 1, episode 2, he fucking would have, but since he spent so much time with Rose, not necessarily. Also, no, what I was gonna say is like I see what you're saying. I think that's slightly messed up by the ending, but yeah. Anyways, so
and then we get into the Rose and Mickey tea.
Yeah.
Oh yes.
Oh well. First we have the thing where where Jack explains that she wants to like have a last request. She wants to leave, and Jack he's like, no, I won't do that. And then Jack fucking pulls out like fucking handcuffs and is like, yo man, go to town.
I was just like, of course you'd have those. Of course.
Yeah.
Ooh, woo.
Exactly. Oh yeah, and she straight up fucking says dinner and bondage works for me. And I'm like, RTD, chill.
Yeah, the humor and darkness is on point.
That line was that was a spicy line.
Yeah, that's RTD for you.
And then like Mickey and Rose kind of get like, obviously it's more like tea and like drama and relationship stuff, which is actually like pretty poignant, but there's that whole thing of them describing.
Well, okay. Do we just want to like so these two scenes are like sort of intermixed, like in between.
Yeah.
In between each other. So you have like the restaurant scene and you have Rose and Mickey. Do we want to just like take them one by one, or do we want to intermix them like the show intermixes them?
I take them one by one just because there's even though there's substance in the Mickey and Rose stuff.
Okay.
We can get that out of the way.
Let's deal with their fucking relationship issues.
All this tea.
Like, Rose is... Okay, like, I'm not gonna say that Rose is badly written, but, like, in this season, she's very well written. I just don't like her as a person.
Oh, yeah, especially... Oh, God. So the first thing she says is, like, you know, he mentions having someone new, and you know, he explains who, and then she's like, well, she's nice, and then she's like, she's a bit big, and it's like,
yeah.
Bruh.
It's like fuck off, Rose.
And then a little bit later on, she's like, you don't even like her. And I'm just like, please don't. Like, that's not the line you need to go down. And to the writer's credit, it's a very realistic argument. Because, like...
it's very realistically written. And again, I don't think Rose is written badly. I just don't like her because I don't like her as a person.
No, like...
By about this point in the season, you know, I stopped being bored with her, and it's more just like, damn, you kind of suck. You kind of sick.
But, like, legit, some tea for y'all, viewers and co-hosts. But, like, this scene, like, watching it now gave me hardcore flashbacks to one of my previous relationships. I'm not going to say which one, in case
I think I know it.
Yeah, you probably know. But, yeah, it was just like, damn. And the fact that he's like, both people are kind of screwing up in the argument. He's just like, oh yeah, I'm seeing this one girl. And yet he like brings up the hotel twice. And then she's just like, things will be different. But then like runs off. And it's just like a beautiful mess where like, obviously I think Rose is more in the wrong because she's like been putting way less effort and Mickey's been trying for way longer. But it still drives the point home. It really like masterful like B plot that kind of just happens in this scene, but it works. And then it's obviously intermixed with the A plot, which is like also amazing. So
yeah, I think I think the other thing that I like about this is it kind of shows like how we get to Torchwood, because Torchwood, despite also being kind of a hot mess, has similar like things where like people fuck up a lot and have arguments kind of like that, like a lot, and they're very sort of realistically rendered. In between all the sort of wanking about and like, look at how cool we are. Anyways, so yeah, Mickey just kind of points out like how shitty it is for Rose to just kind of like dip on him for like months at a time, then like be pissy when he starts going out with someone else. And yeah, it's
yet he's toxically dependent on her. It's like tragic.
Yeah, Mickey's a simp, guys.
He really is. Oh my god. And it literally says like, yeah, I will wait for you.
Let's make that meme.
Yeah. So yeah, that I think this scene's really good, and then it cuts to, you know, I talk up Dalek a lot, but I think this might just be like if you like edited it all into one like straight scene, I think this might be my favorite scene in all of series 1. Which is the scene with Margaret and the Doctor in
as opposed to
the restaurant.
Scene?
What?
As opposed to one case. I was God damn it. As opposed to one gay scene.
Okay, we're taking new co-host applications, guys. Just drop it in the Twitter handle below. And
that would have been
let me.
That would have been funny if you'd heard me the first time.
Doctor Who.
So yeah. Yeah. So, you know, it starts off with like the humor in this episode that goes great, where she tries to kill him 3 times, like once by poisoning his drink while he's not looking, and he switches the glasses and they both are like, and she's like, thank you, and he's like, pleasure. And then she's like, did you know of that in our species, in extreme cases, a female valedictorian can manufacture a poison dart within her own finger, and the doctor fucking catches it mid-flight and was like, yes, I did know that. And then she leans forward and is like, as a final resort, the excess poison can be exhaled through the lungs, and he fucking sprays breath freshener at her.
And he does it so casually too. It's just like that's a very it's a very Nine thing. Like he doesn't get mad or anything. He's just like, he takes it so much in stride.
Yeah, big dick 9 moment.
It's a very good scene construction too, because it gets very heavy, but it like eases you into it.
Because it cuts to, you know, Mickey and Rose, and then it cuts back and she's explaining like how like horrific public execution on Rex Corcophallopatorius is. And this whole scene where the doctor's like, I don't make the law, and she kind of, you know, calls him out because she's like, I can change, and the doctor's like, I don't believe you. Like this cat and mouse especially because I don't think there's any one right answer, because she has valid points and the doctor has valid points. Part of which, you know, I think the ending kind of bungles it a little bit. I think also just because it's like a 45-minute episode, like I think maybe even just like 15 more minutes would have made it like a bit more solid, like have like 60-minute runtime. But
well, I have my own argument for where I stand, but I'll put that at the very end when she like regresses herself. But this whole scene reminds me especially of the like, oh, you know, you didn't write the law, but you're delivering it. Kind of reminds me about the whole like mini debate we had around like what he does with Cassandra, how he seems to have a distinction between like, I'm not killing her, I'm just letting her die. And it seems like a sort of similar situation here, which Nine at least grows out of. The other doctors kind of mix and match like what their stance is on that, depending on the writer and depending on the episode, but it's good within this character.
10 and 12 are really fuck that. 11 is kind of in the middle, and 9 is super hardline follow the rules.
So what you're saying is that 9 is a cop.
Don't make me do this, Avery. I really like 9. Don't make me do this.
I'm just saying that's what you seem to be saying.
Well, I mean,
there's a difference between like
no doctor is authoritarian enough to be a cop. Like like even like the ones that follow the rules more still have enough of like an anti-authoritarian streak.
All right. What if we call him a hall monitor?
Maybe.
I could watch a Paul Blart Mall Cop reboot with Christopher Eccleston.
Christopher Eccleston Mall Cop.
That would actually be so good. I can totally do that.
I'm gonna DM his publishing Twitter right now. Write a script. We're gonna hook this up, y'all.
Anyways,
Doctor Who.
That's probably gonna be the cold open. So she points out that, like, you know, what happens when he leaves, like what happens if not everything's fine when he leaves, like what would happen if you looked back for once.
Which is kind of interesting foreshadowing too. He just leaves Satellite 9 and then 100 years later
Satellite 5, that's where kind of this sort of thematic, like it's not quite as strong as, say, like Utopia or Haunting of Vio Diodati, where it ties into the finale. This one very sort of thematically ties into the finale.
And the close-ups too. Oh my gosh, those close-ups are so good. They're like so imposing, but they like that's where everything is, in my opinion. That's when I was just like, this episode is way better than I remember it.
Yeah. No, I really like the thing where like he points out, because she's like, you know, I could have killed this person, but I didn't. And he's like, that doesn't mean that you're a good person. You know, serial killers might still occasionally spare someone. That's not enough. this show later on, especially in like, you know, I hate to do it again, but especially in like Moffat or like maybe Chibnall era, like I feel like this show would do that. Whereas this still kind of points out like, no, you still murdered a fuck ton of people and you will probably still continue to do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just because you didn't kill one person doesn't mean you're...
As I said, I'll save my argument for the very end, but yes.
I honestly, you know, the line of, you know, sometimes you let one go, that's how you live with yourself. That one, like, that one has, like, stuck with me since I first watched this episode. Like, it's just...
Oh, it is so good.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And he's speaking from experience, too.
Yeah, like,
Kind of.
I remember watching Schindler's List in my film analysis class a few months ago, and if you haven't seen that movie, there's this part, like, there's this subplot in the movie where, you know, the guy who runs the concentration camp is, like, in love with his, you know, Jewish servant and, like, wants to get her out and, like, disguise her as a German. And it's sort of like that's how he lives with himself because he treats that one as human, you know, and it's the same thing here. So
yeah,
it's just like the same idea. It was very interesting, and just like and then the way she turns that around on him, you know, you're speaking from experience, and you know, and he's like, and he just sort of like doesn't answer, and then she's like, I'm one, you should let me go. Like that was good.
Yeah. And especially the like this whole scene where it's just like 5 minutes basically all like mid shot or close ups and just two like really good actors going at each other. Like this is like something that like you could do it on like on like a stage play with like a completely blank set aside from the table, and it would still work if the acting was good enough.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and then, you know, this is my one thing of like, you know, 45-minute syndrome is that I think sort of the jump from them having this debate to it basically already being like, okay, you know, she's sabotaged the TARDIS because Jack was installing the extrapolator. Like, the fact that it instantly jumps to that is, like, it's an unavoidable byproduct of the fact that the episode is a 45-minute time slot. Like, I feel like if they had 15 more minutes, they could put a little bit more gap into there, and it would, like, genuinely leave the viewer guessing a little more, and, yeah. It's just a little bit rushed for me.
I agree.
I can understand that.
I feel like if this were, you know, coming out nowadays, and, you know, as all new shows are on Netflix, it would have sort of that flexibility you see in a show like Black Mirror, or like or like the new episode, where, you know, the show, whoever's writing the episode can have as much or as little time as they need to tell their story, and I feel like that really applies here.
Yeah,
where they
that's
like 15 more minutes.
Yeah, that's still like one downside of the Doctor Who is because it's still airing on television. Like, even though Chibnall bumped this slot up to a 50-minute slot, that's still only like 5 minutes more.
Yeah.
So I feel like just genuinely like having the ability to make an episode as long or as short as you need. Well, maybe not as short, but like as long as you need, like within reason. Like, obviously, like if it's an hour and a half, then you just split it into a 2-parter. But being able to go up to like, you know, an hour 10 maybe, you know, having that time, I think would be good. But unfortunately, broadcast TV has strict time slots.
I mean, honestly, I agree with as short too. Like, there are definitely some stories in Doctor Who that I think could have been a lot better as like half-hour stories, without an extra.
Yes, well, I mean, I'd say take the half-hour stories and like, you know, just put in a different story.
No, but that's the thing. Like, if you don't have the constrictions of broadcasting, like, you can make stories that maybe, while good, wouldn't necessarily be 45 minutes, and I think that's one of the advantages. And I think it is good to sometimes make shorter stories if that's what the story, you know, necessitates, if that's what it demands.
Yeah.
I mean, this is going off on a little bit of a tangent, but I'll just quickly say that the how quickly it went from that conversation to the whole like, oh crap, what's happening, worked fine for me. But I do agree, Avery. I think one example that's really good is the Eighth Doctor like mini short, the Night of the Doctor, worked
Yeah.
really well
Yes.
as that
I
length.
agree.
Now I would have liked to see more of Eight, but like for what it was
Yeah.
telling and the fact that you can't get a young John Hurt to go
Yeah.
around, at least not on a TV budget, it was perfect.
Yeah, no, I agree. I like the Night of the Doctor more than I actually like the Day of the Doctor, but we'll get to that later. Um,
So then
anyways,
everything goes to hell.
yeah. So it turns out that she had rigged the extrapolator to take control of the TARDIS, and she says it is just any alien tech, and it happens that the TARDIS is what it was, and of course the TARDIS is a bit of a step above alien tech. So at this point in time, there are 3 Captain Jack Harknesses in Cardiff at the same time.
Nice.
Because of time shenanigans in Torchwood, and I believe one of them, the one that is currently running Torchwood 3, is desperately trying to make sure that like his team like don't know that this is happening and are like not, you're just letting it play out.
Ooh.
Nice.
So yeah, they all get in. This effect is a little bit goofy, where it's supposed to be, you know, like Margaret throws like the arm part of her skin suit off, but it very clearly, like, you can tell she's just wearing this lithium arm over her normal arm.
You just don't
And
need to look at it
she
too
grabs
much.
Rose. Yeah, she grabs Rose, and explains her plan, and puts open a hostage situation where the Doctor remains like this is the one thing I like, where it's like, I remember this being like a bit more of a Deus Ex Machina than it was. No, I think it's pretty clearly shown that he had this plan all along, which actually I think kind of, it makes some things a little bit less interesting, but I'll get to that when we get to ratings. So while this is all happening in haywire and the rift's being torn open, the TARDIS console cracks open, and there's this brilliant light, which is the heart of the TARDIS, which the Doctor encourages Margaret to look into, and she looks into it and has this sort of like epiphany or mind-altering thing or whatever, and she just whispers thank you and disappears, and we later find out that the TARDIS regressed her back to an egg form so she can live her life again.
Okay. Can I explain quickly before we get into everything why I enjoy this? Because I have a feeling you don't.
Okay. All right.
So basically, and Avery's gonna hate me for this because I'm partially using a like quote in Harry Potter that isn't exclusive to Harry Potter, but it's the only instance I can think of, and it words this best. But like at one point, I believe it's like the 5th book or movie, Sirius Black says to Harry Potter, who is like worried that he's like turning evil and stuff, that it's like, we all have good and bad in us. Some have more bad than others, some have more good, and ultimately it's like what we choose to do that like really matters. And basically,
I mean, that's just a weirder, like slightly more predetermined way of saying like nobody's born evil, which is like what I prefer.
well, yeah, but I mean, my point being that like I think that we can take everything at face value. That she was like, in the end, she says, "Oh yeah, I had you bleeding out of your heart, and this was my plan all along." But I still think there's enough indications to see that there is enough of a person in there that the only reason she's keeping going this way is because she's done this for so long that she's used to it, and B,
Yeah.
that she has no
Yeah.
other choice. And realistically, she doesn't. And this kind of unique scenario is the only way she could possibly get out. So do I think she's ultimately like, oh, she was like really changing all along? Like, no, but I think there was enough in her that once she saw the like basically only way she could do over, that there was enough in her that she ultimately chose that. But in any other scenario, she would have been like, fuck you, I'm destroying this planet, I'm getting out of here. It's just the unique nature of the TARDIS and what that entails that basically allows her to have that ending. So yeah, that's my
Yeah.
argument.
Yeah. So, the doctor says that we had the rift we opened the rift that filled it up with energy. We can go. Rose tries to go find Mickey to say goodbye to find that he's kind of dipped on her. Thank God that man can do so much better.
Like Martha.
And and they go off to Rexicorical Fallipatorius to return her to a new family that will hopefully be less shitty to her. So I guess moving on to ratings, and I guess I will go first here since Sky explained all of this. I think this episode is really, really fucking good. I think this is an underrated gem, and I think it's one of the best episodes of this season. However, there's enough here that I don't, like, I just genuinely, like, think is, like, a wasted opportunity in the plot. And part of this is 45-minute syndrome. Part of this is just how they structured the episode. Which I think in itself actually kind of runs into 45-minute syndrome. But this episode is like an 8.5 to a 9 out of 10, despite that. The dialogue is really fantastic. The characters are stellar. The characterization's stellar. Again, even if I don't like Rose, I can't say she's badly written here because she's written extremely well. My problems mainly lie in, I think because this resolution, in a sense, you get the feeling that Nine had, like, had this planned out the entire time by, like, how nonplussed he is by this whole thing. Or either that or he came up with a plan really quickly or whatever. The fact that he had that planned out, I think it kind of brings the restaurant scene down a little, because part of that scene is, it's this debate. But, if he's already come up with this plan, if he already knows that he's going to win and that he's made up his mind and that he has this choice, I don't think it hits as hard as it would be if, like, say, if this was like a 60-minute episode, if, he agrees to let her go or something, and then the thing triggers and she explains that, and then she's like, okay, I'll go to the TARDIS to get my stuff or whatever, or okay, I'll go to the TARDIS and we can go to another planet or whatever, and then the thing triggers. I think that would have been a little bit better than just, like, you go straight to it and he's had it all planned out. Like, it leaves that more moral flexibility in questioning whether Nine is right. But, other than that, I think the episode's, like, really, really good. And it's really, like, kind of like just that thing that kind of stops this episode from being a 10.
Okay, I'll go next, I guess. So, putting aside my whole, like, speech aside, I will also say I don't think the Doctor had that planned out, just because he has that line of, like, oh, she looked into the heart of the TARDIS. Even I don't know how powerful that is, so I don't know if he would really know if that would help or not. But that's a side thing.
Yeah, but he comes up with plans all the time without, like, knowing if they'll work for sure. That's a
fair enough. But, like, despite how I really like this episode, I really like the resolution. I think all the elements are basically firing on all cylinders. To me, a lot of this is just, like, really good, entertaining Doctor Who. There's some great moments, like the main Rose and Mickey argument, and the chemistry between Jack, Nine, and Rose is obviously stellar. And the conversation in the
hashtag OT3.
Hell yeah. In the conversation between Nine and Blonde / Margaret is really good. But there's a lot of things in between that just entertain me and don't necessarily have me glued to the screen. Whereas, like, in things like Father's Day, I was more invested all the way through. In things like The Empty Child and The Doctor Dances, I was invested all the way through. So because of that, it's good Who. I'd even call it, like, pretty great, but it's not above those things for me. So I'm going to give it an 8.
All right. Avery?
Honestly, just a lot of the same. It's a pretty good episode. A lot of good concepts. A lot of good, threads in this episode. A lot of good interactions between characters. The Doctor with Margaret, Mickey and Rose, Jack with everyone, as he tends to.
Here, here.
But yeah, just like it could have been a better episode just plot wise. It could have used a bit more time. Not too much happens in the episode, and the plot between the Doctor and Margaret, even though it's fun, gets a little convoluted. So yeah, I'd say an 8. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. This episode's just really fucking good. Anyways, moving on, unless any of you have any last remarks to say.
Just that I noticed in the next time thing, they reveal the fucking
Oh yeah, they
Dalek
fucking spoil.
twist,
They spoil the cliffhanger,
which is like a weird semi thing that Who has in its history. Where like the most recent example I can think of is in, I don't know if it was the first trailer for Series 10 or like one of the early ones though. Basically spoiled that the Sim Master was going to be in some aspect of it, and I was just like, why do you do that? It makes me wish I was more like my dad sometimes, who just like stays away from everything, and he's a boomer, so that comes with the territory. But he's never not surprised by something because he just stays away.
Yeah. Anyways, so next week we will be covering the Series 1 finale, which is Bad Wolf and the Parting of the Ways. So I'm expecting there to be some spicy groaning about the really dated fucking reality show shit that like basically like makes up like half the story. But then we'll say goodbye to our lad 9. And I think we might do some stuff like some rankings and some overall thoughts on like the series as a whole. But until then, we will see you guys next week with the Series 1 finale.